Hi there, Steve Kaufman here. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining right at me here in my little room, and I have something I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about it in English and maybe in other languages as well. I'll tell you right up front, this video is in English. Someone complained that my previous video in French, it wasn't clearly indicated that it was in French, and you had to listen through quite a bit of it and fast forward to figure out that it was all in French. So I will try to be a little more careful in that regard. I posted on my blog, The Linguist on Language, about a concept called auding, Auding, and oracy, Oracy. This is like auding as opposed to reading, so listening instead of reading, oracy instead of literacy, oracy being the ability to hear well and speak well. As opposed to literacy, which is the ability to read well and write well. And there's all kinds of evidence that the ability to hear and to understand when we're listening is extremely important. And of course, the ability to speak well is important. That these are, along with the literacy skills, very important to the success of a society and the success of individuals in that society. And I have commented often here that the key to successful literacy is the opportunity to hear a lot of words. And we know that children from families where the parents speak to them on a variety of subjects, that those children do better at school, they read better, maybe not immediately, because in the very early ages, everyone is being taught their letters, and so they're all kind of at the same level. But as soon as that initial part of literacy learning is behind them, those kids who have heard a lot of words just read a lot better, because obviously it's a lot easier to read words that you already know because you've heard them. And similarly, kids who are familiar with a lot of subjects, that have a lot of general knowledge from listening to their parents or others, they'll have an easier time reading, because obviously if you're familiar with the subject matter that you're reading about, you're going to have an easier time reading. And there's all kinds of tests that have been done that show that if you have two groups of readers, or let's say learners learning a foreign language, and you give one group a word list, a vocabulary list to study beforehand, and the other one doesn't get that list, and then they both have to read the same text, there's no appreciable difference. In other words, you can't suddenly start memorizing stuff. On the other hand, what really matters is how familiar people are with the text that they're about to read. So whether it be in foreign language learning or literacy, the more words you have and the more familiar you are with different subjects, the better off you're going to do. And so where I'm coming from on all of this is, obviously reading is a major subject at school. People are taught to read. I wonder whether we aren't missing the boat in that we don't deliberately teach people to listen and work on their listening or auding skills. And what's really happened that can make this much easier now than ever before, of course, is the appearance of these little MP3 players. And I know that my language learning has taken off since I was able to get a hold of an MP3 player, because I can listen while doing other things. What's more, I notice that I have a better time concentrating when I'm active. Whereas if I sit in a chair and try to listen, I tend to lose focus. But if I'm doing the dishes, even if I'm driving the car, if I'm running around a field or jogging or whatever I'm doing, surprisingly, I focus better on the content of what I'm listening to. So what I want to propose, because in schools, most kids don't like sitting in a classroom and being, taught at. We also know that there are problems in all modern societies with obesity and inactive children. I think there should be a program every day in school where children are given something useful to listen to, relating to what they are studying. and that they are then asked to run around the field for half an hour listening to this. Now, a lot of people say, well, the kids won't listen and they'll listen to music. Well, first of all, you can give them an MP3 player that only has whatever it is you want them to listen to on that MP3 player. So there's no way they're going to listen to music. Second of all, you say they won't do it, but they read. And if you think about it, if we didn't have books and reading and writing, and people had only ever listened, and then you say, okay, now we want you to sit down and stick your nose at this piece of paper and just read it, there would be a lot of resistance. So listening to something is not necessarily a more difficult concept than reading. And particularly if you add in the opportunity to go and run. And I think we should train people to get better at listening and increase their vocabulary and give them a variety of interesting things to listen to. And I think that from my experience with Link and with my own language learning, that people will learn more if they listen and read than if they're in a classroom with the teacher trying to explain a bunch of stuff. Let the kids hear about it on their own. Let them hear it more than once. Let them hear it in different formats, stories, articles, dialogues, going over some of the same material. But let them just absorb it in a passive way while active. I'm convinced that people would learn more if they learned in that way, if that opportunity were made available to them. Plus, they would develop a skill, a habit, which I think can be very, very useful in later life. And that's the habit of learning while doing other things. So we'd achieve several things here. We'd make auding or listening a specific skill that we teach in school. We would do it in combination with physical exercise. So we're also getting the kids more active. And if it's winter, they run around the gym. They don't have to find some, run on a treadmill. It doesn't matter. Reduce the number of class hours where the kids are being unruly and the teacher is mostly concerned with trying to maintain discipline in the classroom. And so we do all of these things. The kids will learn more, in my opinion. Now, granted, I haven't tested any of these theories, but it's just something that's really come at me in the last few days. And we develop a skill that can be very useful throughout one's life. And if in all of that, and I don't hesitate to say, if we combine the listening with something like Link, where people can deliberately increase their vocabulary, then what we would end up doing, is increasing the vocabulary of these kids and eventually adults. We would increase their familiarity with a variety of subjects. We would improve their ability to listen. We would improve their auding skills. We would improve their oracy skills. We would also improve their literacy skills. We would have more successful people, more productive economy. I mean, the overwhelming majority of people who are in prison are people with very poor literacy skills, and probably as well poor oracy or auding or listening skills. So there you have it. I'm very interested in getting some reaction to this, and I'll probably do it up in a few other languages to see if we can get some interest from speakers of those languages as well. So let me know what you think. Maybe I'm completely out of my mind, which I probably am half the time anyway. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.